Imagine stepping into a house where the rules of reality are suspended, a house where fear is the law, and your survival is never guaranteed. You've seen haunted houses before. You've screamed at cheap jump scares, laughed at actors in masks. But nothing could prepare you for this. Welcome to McKamey Manor, a place that calls itself a haunted house but is, in reality, an extreme trial of human endurance. For over 3 decades, it has terrified, tested, and traumatized anyone who dares to enter. Some call it entertainment. Others call it something far darker. The question that has haunted everyone who hears its name is simple. Can anyone actually survive McKamey Manor? Today, we will uncover the story, the horrors, and the truth behind America's most extreme haunted attraction. McKamey Manor began in 1989 in San Diego, California. Founded by Russ McKamey, it started as a small-scale haunted house for thrill seekers. But back then, it was nothing like the nightmare it would later become. It wasn't extreme torture or psychological warfare. It was just a neighborhood experience. Russ McKamey was a charismatic performer, passionate about theatrics and scaring people for fun. Friends, neighbors, and even local kids would visit what was originally more of a spooky, comedic, Halloween-style walk-through attraction. People laughed, screamed a little, and went home with candy. No one imagined this playful project would transform into one of the most feared experiences in the world. But it quickly grew into something far more extreme. As the years passed, McKamey started experimenting with more intense scare tactics. He observed something interesting. While traditional haunted houses relied on ghosts and skeleton props, the scariest moments were not from jump scares, but from unpredictability, loss of control, and psychological vulnerability. This sparked an obsession in Russ. He began pushing boundaries, adding live actors, physical interaction, storytelling arcs, and illusion-based torture scenes that played with a person's deepest fears. Over the years, McKamey Manor relocated, eventually finding homes in Tennessee and Alabama, each time expanding its reputation as the haunted house that no one ever completes. The move from California to Tennessee was not just geographical. It marked the shift from a Halloween-themed attraction to a full-blown endurance test. Local communities whispered about it. Online forums exploded with discussions. People started sharing rumors of participants begging to leave, crying for mercy, or mentally breaking down inside. With every relocation, the manor evolved. More challenges, more psychological layers, more intensity. It no longer wanted to scare people. It wanted to see how far fear could push a human being before they shattered. Unlike any other attraction, this is not a place to wander through with friends and laugh. There are no cheerful groups casually walking through. Entrants are not tourists. They are contestants. Each person enters alone or in pairs, under strict surveillance. Every action is recorded. Every reaction is scrutinized. Once inside, they are not guests. They are subjects. Participants are carefully screened. The process begins long before they even reach the door. Potential entrants undergo a vetting procedure. They must be over 21 or have parental approval if younger. They must pass a background check. They must provide proof of medical fitness. Because what lies ahead is not just a theatrical performance. It's a physical and psychological battle. They must sign a 40-page waiver that outlines every potential risk, undergo a physical examination, and even donate a bag of dog food to gain entry. The waiver isn't a casual formality like in regular haunted houses. It explicitly lists possible consequences: bruises, cuts, broken bones, panic attacks, emotional trauma, and more. The physical examination ensures they can withstand intense physical strain, as the manor has been known to push bodies to their limits. The bag of dog food symbolizes something eerie. It is less about charity and more about ritualistic entry, a kind of offering. The moment they hand it over, they symbolically surrender control. The waiver makes it clear what happens inside may cause physical or psychological trauma, and McKamey Manor holds no responsibility. And yet, people still volunteer. Which raises the question, why? Why do people willingly walk into something so extreme, knowing the consequences? Some say it's the thrill of facing death without actually dying. Others crave the challenge of proving their bravery. Many are adrenaline junkies seeking the next high. For some, it's about ego, the desire to be the first person in history to conquer the unconquerable. It was said that Russ McKamey designed every challenge with one goal: to test human fear to its ultimate limit. He wasn't creating scares. He was creating experiments. Every scenario is carefully constructed, not for entertainment, but for psychological impact. The participants' deepest fears, claustrophobia, drowning, helplessness, humiliation, become customized torture modules. The experiences inside are not scripted jump scares. They are controlled chaos, designed to break the mind and the body. Instead of someone in a mask jumping from behind a wall, participants might find themselves bound, blindfolded, disoriented, and forced to endure prolonged fear without knowing when it will end. McKamey Manor is not about sudden terror. It's about sustained, escalating dread. The experiences inside are not scripted jump scares. They are controlled chaos, designed to break the mind and the body. But what exactly happens behind those rusted doors? What kind of place forces people, grown adults, to beg, scream, and sob for release, only to be denied again and again? Participants don't walk into McKamey Manor as casual visitors. They are escorted in like prisoners, entering a psychological war zone. The moment they step inside, they lose one thing most people take for granted: control. Some are hooded immediately. Others are forced to kneel and listen to Russ describe what lies ahead, calmly, almost eerily, as if he's narrating a show he's about to enjoy. Cameras are already rolling. Every second is filmed, not for safety, but as proof that everything was consensual. From that point on, the manor becomes a maze of torment. There are no map paths, no time limits, no comforting actors in masks jumping from corners. Instead, participants are dragged, often literally, from room to room. They are yelled at, humiliated, covered in fake blood or even animal remains. Some report being submerged in ice-cold water for minutes that feel like hours. Others are locked in coffins with insects crawling over their skin while they scream in panic. Many recall the manor as an environment that plays with all senses at once. Blinding lights, deafening sounds, freezing temperatures, unbearable heat, the smell of decay, the constant touch of things unseen. Every second is meant to disorient the mind, forcing participants to question what is real and what isn't. There are no safe words here, not really. The official line is that saying, "I quit," ends the experience. But many claim that even after they beg to be released, the torment continues for a while. making them feel trapped in a nightmare that obeys no rules. Participants are mocked for showing fear. Some are force-fed strange substances. Others have their faces submerged in water, while actors scream, "You want it extreme, here it is." The goal isn't to scare them, it's to break them, and it works. Within minutes, people who once boasted about their high pain tolerance or fearless nature crumble, shaking, crying, and pleading. In videos, many of which Russ proudly uploads as proof of the manor's intensity, contestants are seen on their knees, trembling, signing a confession that they failed the challenge. There's no mercy in McKamey Manor, no moment to breathe, no time to mentally process what's happening. Each act of psychological warfare is layered on top of the last, with no indication of when or even if it will ever stop. But despite everything, the fear, the humiliation, the torment, people still go, over and over again. The question now becomes, why? What drives someone to voluntarily enter a place designed to emotionally destroy them? Why do people sign a waiver warning them they may leave with lifelong trauma, or not at all? And perhaps more disturbing, what happens to a mind when it reaches the breaking point inside McKamey Manor? Fear is powerful, but at McKamey Manor, fear is just the beginning. The true weapon of this experience isn't blood, or darkness, or violence. It's mental disintegration. From the very first moment, the manor begins to play a psychological game. Contestants are made to believe that they are being tested in ways no ordinary human can survive. They are reminded that no one has ever completed this challenge. That alone sets a mental curse in motion. If no one else could survive this, can I? As the minutes pass, minutes that feel like hours, contestants lose their sense of time. Some report feeling as though they've been inside for days. In reality, they may have lasted only 30 minutes before they begin to crack. The actors, if they can even be called that, don't just scream or jump out from the dark. They taunt. They question your strength. They remind you of your weaknesses. They tell you that you will fail, that you are not strong enough, that you are nothing. Over time, it stops sounding like an external voice. It starts sounding like your own. Mental pressure becomes physical collapse. At a certain breaking point, the mind begins to betray the body. Participants shake, their breathing becomes shallow, and they start to hallucinate or lose grip on reality. Some whisper to themselves. Others scream apologies to no one in particular. Some report hearing voices, even when the manor falls completely silent. It's here, in this fragile state, that McKamey Manor pushes hardest. Contestants are often made to believe that the worst is yet to come. So even if they physically survive one challenge, the anticipation of the next begins to destroy their spirit. Fear of what might happen becomes more painful than what is happening. Some have described a moment when they no longer cared about winning the $20,000 prize. They no longer cared about proving anyone wrong. They no longer even cared about their pride. All they wanted was to leave as someone who still recognized themselves. But leaving is not immediate. Even after someone breaks, they may still be dragged through more torment. They may scream, "I quit," repeatedly, only to be ignored for several more minutes or longer. For many, this was the most terrifying moment, realizing they were no longer in control of their own safety. The waiver they signed becomes a psychological chain around their minds, convincing them that no one is obligated to rescue them. By the time they are finally released, they emerge unrecognizable, soaked, shaking, mentally shattered. Some fall to their knees outside the manor, sobbing. Others remain silent, staring blankly. A few scream, calling what they experienced pure torture. Many who quit cannot even recount the exact sequence of events that happened inside. Their minds either blurred the trauma or desperately blocked it out. In fact, one participant reportedly said, "I didn't walk out of McKamey Manor. A different version of me did, and that raises a new, darker question. If this place is so brutal that participants can experience emotional collapse or post-traumatic symptoms, why does McKamey Manor still exist? More importantly, how does it legally operate without being shut down permanently?" When people finally escape McKamey Manor, they don't walk away like survivors of a thrilling haunted house. They leave as if they've survived a war they never trained for. Videos released by Russ McKamey himself often show the aftermath. Participants, soaked in water, mud, or fake blood, trembling uncontrollably. Their voices crack as they try to say they quit. Some collapse to the ground, hyperventilating. Others simply stare into space, mentally disconnected, eyes hollow. One participant described the aftermath in an interview. "Greater than, I felt like my brain wasn't mine anymore. My sense of self, it just shut off in there." Another said, "I thought I could handle anything. I lasted less than an hour. When I got out, I didn't even recognize my own voice when I spoke." Some participants experience nightmares for days, even weeks afterward. They wake up feeling like they are still trapped in a dark room, still being yelled at, still waiting for permission to breathe normally again. A few reported symptoms similar to PTSD, trouble sleeping, anxiety attacks, sudden fear responses to loud noises or darkness, overwhelming dread in confined spaces. These are not reactions to a simple haunted house. These are psychological scars usually seen in victims of real trauma. But perhaps most haunting of all, there are people who return. Yes, despite the pain, humiliation, and trauma, some contestants sign up again. But why? For a small group, McKamey Manor becomes an obsession, a twisted challenge they desperately want to conquer. They believe that if they can endure it, they'll somehow prove something to themselves or to the people who told them they couldn't. In this sense, the manor becomes not just a house of horrors, but a psychological trap, a place that preys on human ego, pride, and the desire for victory. But not everyone returns out of obsession. Some people claim they were pressured to come back by Russ himself. They say he told them they were strong enough to finish if they just pushed harder. Others say they were mocked for giving up too quickly. A few have accused him of psychological manipulation outside the manor, encouraging them to come back to complete the story. And then there are the videos Russ publishes. Some people say their humiliation was recorded and posted online without warning. They return desperate to rewrite their legacy, not as failures, but as survivors. But there is one more category of people, those who never fully recovered. Some people say they returned because they needed closure. They felt that something inside the manor broke them, and they went back hoping to reclaim that part of themselves, only to lose even more the second time. And looming over all of this is a chilling reality. There is no official record of someone completing the challenge. No trophy, no rightful winner. Only a long list of quitters and broken minds. As McKamey Manor's fame grew, so did its controversy. What began as a bizarre endurance attraction soon became a nationwide debate. Is this legal entertainment or criminal abuse disguised as horror? Former participants, neighbors, and even legal authorities have all raised serious concerns. Over time, 3 major accusations began to surface. First one states, "This isn't a haunted house. It's legalized torture." Unlike typical haunted attractions with jump scares and theatrics, participants claim that McKamey Manor uses prolonged forced confinement, physical manhandling, humiliation, simulated drowning, and psychological warfare. Some past contestants describe being held underwater repeatedly, locked in coffins with insects, shaved without consent, force-fed unknown substances, physically restrained, and slapped. Many argue that these actions resemble enhanced interrogation tactics more than entertainment. Second states that the waiver may protect the manor, but does it excuse everything? The infamous 40-page waiver is often cited as justification for everything that happens inside. It reportedly includes warnings about broken bones, teeth being removed, psychological distress, and even the risk of death. Some critics argue that signing a waiver does not give someone legal permission to cause extreme harm, especially under duress. A former participant claimed, "Greater than I signed it, thinking it was just exaggerated legal talk. I had no idea how real it would get." Others insist that contestants are intentionally overwhelmed and mentally pressured before finishing the waiver, suggesting potential ethical violations. Third one is related to the community backlash. The manor was banned in multiple locations. Eventually, the attraction wore out its welcome. In San Diego, California, neighbors complained about the constant screams and disturbing scenes being recorded outside the house. Local authorities began monitoring it due to safety concerns. McKamey Manor relocated to Summertown, Tennessee, and later to Huntsville, Alabama. But backlash followed. Some local residents demanded its closure, saying it brought dark tourism and moral panic to the area. Petitions were even launched to shut it down, gaining tens of thousands of signatures. Accusations poured in, calling it a torture chamber, psychological exploitation, and sadistic entertainment. Despite the outrage, Russ continued to defend the attraction, stating, "Everything is done under consent. It's just an extreme sport of the mind." Is there something more behind all this? A hidden motive? Rumors began to swirl online. Some theorized that McKamey Manor wasn't just a haunt. It was a twisted psychological experiment to study human fear and mental collapse. Others claimed Russ took pleasure in watching people break, that the attraction wasn't about survival, but domination. One persistent conspiracy theory suggests McKamey Manor is used as a testing ground for interrogation tactics or psychological conditioning, disguised under the umbrella of entertainment. No official evidence confirms these claims, but the mystery only adds to its sinister legacy. After decades of rumors, videos, lawsuits, and broken participants, the ultimate question remains: can anyone survive McKamey Manor? The answer is as chilling as the manor itself. Technically, yes, someone could reach the end, but the structure of the manor is designed to make it nearly impossible. The challenges are not random. They are carefully engineered to exploit human weakness, fear, and endurance. Each scenario, each room, each psychological trap is layered upon the last, ensuring that by the time a participant thinks they might succeed, they have already been mentally and physically shattered. The $20,000 reward is not simply a prize, it is a lure. It draws thrill seekers, adrenaline addicts, and the proudest of challengers into the manor's grasp. But no one has ever claimed it. Some quit early, some break midway, and some walk out changed, never to attempt it again. The lure is not money, it is the illusion of accomplishment, and the manor's greatest power lies in keeping that illusion alive. Russ McKamey's goal has never been about entertainment in the traditional sense. It's about control. It's about orchestrating a fear so intense, so unrelenting, that it consumes everything a person thought they knew about themselves. Participants enter with courage, but the manor demands surrender. Not surrender of life, necessarily, but surrender of certainty, comfort, and self-assurance. In that surrender lies the manor's dark legacy. And yet, despite all the pain, humiliation, and trauma, people continue to line up at the gates. Why? Because McKamey Manor is not just a haunted house. It is a test, a legend, and a story that will not die. The manor exists to challenge the human mind, to push it to the edge, and to leave an imprint on anyone daring enough to enter. So the final truth is this: McKamey Manor is not meant to be conquered. It is meant to be endured, feared, and remembered. It is a house that proves human fear has limits, but also that most of us will never truly find them. No matter how brave you think you are, the manor always remains one step ahead. If you're still sitting there, listening to this story, perhaps you feel it. The unease, the curiosity, the draw of the unknown. That is exactly what McKamey Manor intends. It calls to those who are drawn to fear, to challenge, and to the edge of sanity, and it leaves a question in its wake. Would you dare to enter? If you're still watching, maybe you're drawn to darkness too. Join Haunted Horizon and step deeper into the unknown.